Okay, good evening, everyone. Come and listen to our land session. We'll be making draws about every 10 minutes. We've got to get rid of a lot of stuff here. But today, the reason we've called a community session is to go through two things. Right now, we're trying to identify on a reserve, north, the whole reserve, where we have site-specific stuff like Tantiumaya and Musagana make medicines and the type Kispinagaya. Some of them I say they grow all over and some of them are rare. Egunenan enutem skama nagatugia moya gawanita in the future because we're just growing and we got to protect that. Also, Kispinaya where everybody sun dances manumea, whatever. I'm not too familiar on Matiska Giatsiptsagate, but we still need to identify them. We have two tables on this side. Terry, that side, right? So on that side, you can sit down with individuals there and tell them your story and point. There's maps there you can identify. So what areas do you gather medicines, berries, something like that, areas of significance that you are aware of, like heritage sites. Hudson's Bay Company, and we bought that land. It's just Moa here at the police station on the other side. I've never been there. I just heard about it, but I never got the opportunity to go and look where it is. If somebody can identify that on a map, it'd be good because we don't want to build over it in the future. Because we're right now, burial sites. If you have knowledge of that and locations of where those sites are, point them out on a map. We'll highlight them, and we don't have to say too much about those stories, but we will just put them on a map so we know we kind of stay away from those areas too. So with that, Natugigwe, ceremonial sites, again, I said that. So 3 tables over there, people can go and sit with individuals there. I think Jordan's got one table, Renetta is on the other one, and Erwin Skeenum. So they're going to go eat the mog. They'll take notes and identify it on a map, and then it'll be good. So with that, that's the first part. Now, the second part of this whole entire thing is all this information will be going into a community development plan. Back in 2017, we started a 20-year community development plan, try to identify and protect areas on reserve. Tantiuma, where are we going to do our agricultural? We got to protect that. We got to protect the water bodies and Natugigwe, oil and gas development. Commercial, industrial areas. Where do we want to build? So we did a vote back then. We identified some areas like the river. We didn't own it back then, but we still went ahead and designated industrial commercial. So we had a referendum, and the people agreed to we should build there in the future. So that's one area. That portion on the Saskatchewan side may be reserve status by May of this year. So there's plans being made that the nation wants to build something there. So our job, Umuta, is to try and identify all the places that we can build, develop grocery stores, gas stations, whatever. Housing is important. We gotta, with the way our community growth is going, we need more housing. We're running out of sites. So you see subdivisions. Back in the day, we had identified them in this community development plan. It was a draft back then. Nobody actually used it. It was shelved. People are starting to understand we're growing so much. We have to put a plan together to map out the reserve and set, I call it a table. You set it for future generations. We are to continue this. This is where we build houses for the next 20 years. I say we got a couple locations on this, our new development. We'll show you that, but we had some in this old one where we did it, by the way. You see all them sites, the subdivision up north, just east of our oil and gas development. But I started to notice it was starting to encroach into our oil and gas side. So we got to protect our oil and gas areas too, because yeah, that's basically where we make most of our money. So, but definitely we need to build homes for sure. So we've got some areas identified in this new draft, because in Sagaskana it's full now. This one we had designated back in the day, and yeah. So with that, we ready for a draw? Might as well, because there's a lot of stuff we have to give away here, and I don't think we can. Anybody else come in just now? Doesn't have a ticket? Okay. Nina and the workers, we don't get tickets, so we'll just win the main prize. Just kidding. Okay, what is? Oh, sleeping bag. No, 1055. 1055. We got a winner. Congratulations. Okay, we'll continue. Um, yeah. You look at the on that wall. Guapatino, we have an old map of our landholders. There's all kinds of colors. Everybody from whoever's last name with whoever holds land, we try to make a map out of it, so it's there, but we still need to upgrade it. This map is about, I don't know, 40, maybe 30 years old or more. Kaya sumutsits, but it's changed. So we got a GIS system. We make our own maps now, and we can move everybody's boundaries to where they're supposed to be. Everything's changed now. Things have changed in all these 30, 40 years, whatever that map is. So we're going to continue to do that this summer. We're waiting for our GIS mapping guy to get hired, and we're working with Northbound Planning with their GIS system. Is it ArcGIS? And they've got everything in place for us to start putting our maps together. They'll develop it, and then we'll just map everything. We'll probably be out there all summer GPSing corners of everybody's fence lines or boundaries, and yeah, and go with that. So that's a lot of work coming. With that, I'm going to hand it over to our planner, our community development planner, Northbound Planning, her company. She did the last one for us, so we brought her back because leadership want us to continue with the new community development plan, update it, and now because we've changed, we've got new lands, TLE, and everything's changed. They want to develop, so we put a draft together. You see them on a wall over there, and she'll go through this. You got our TLE map. All the blue lands are not reserved yet, but there will be. We're moving hard on that, so hopefully they'll be reserved status. I mean, they're going to as soon as possible. With that, I'll give the mic to our planner, Yvonne Pruzak.
Hello, everyone. So what we've been doing, as soon as everyone's sort of finished eating at the tables, what we'll do is we'll get you to move your plates, and we're going to bring the maps back. So to build off what Elliot was talking about, we want to make sure that we've got certain areas designated for certain types of development. So if I go back to this map here, this is the one that we made 15 years ago. And it was our 30-year plan as to how Onion Lake was going to grow. So we have the yellow was residential development, blue was commercial, and then we had natural resource areas, and we just really focused on the southern end of the community. On each of the tables, there's going to be 3 different maps. There's going to be an overview of the whole reserve, the north and the south, and then there's going to be one that focuses on the south end and one that focuses on the north end. So the intent is that with how fast Onion Lake is growing, we want to make sure that there's enough residential areas within the reserve to be able to accommodate growth. But we also want to make sure that there's enough agricultural lands to be able to have enough food production. We've been having a series of meetings over the last 3 months with different departments from the band. And each of those different departments came forward and said, hey, these are our projects. These are the things that we are wanting to do for the community going forward. So when we're doing the land use planning, we want to consider all of these different factors when we are thinking about 30, 50, 100 years down the road. So for example, one of the goals that was put forward by the folks that attended these meetings was they want to protect enough agricultural land and then start converting the agricultural land for food production. So for corn and potatoes and beets and whatever it might be, so that we can then start feeding the local community first, and then with surplus being able to sell it off reserve for revenue generation. Well, that then becomes important that we protect enough of those agricultural lands to accommodate that. So we want to designate certain locations for residential development, and then we want to designate areas for agriculture. We want to designate areas for oil and gas, like Elliot mentioned, with a lot of the revenue coming there. And then other areas that might be more resource sector, your gravel, your forestry, that type of development that might be in those locations. Now, one of the things that we consider is how close some of these uses are beside each other. You know, you don't want to put a oil well right beside the school, right? Because those might not be compatible. They might not be the best place to put that. So we want to designate certain areas that work together. Residential around schools, around community commercial nodes where you can have a local grocery store. You know, you can have maybe an arena, or you can have a library, or you can have certain types of, like the splash park, so that there's amenities in this residential area that people can use and enjoy when they're living in that location. So I'm gonna stop talking. I tend to talk quite a bit, so we're gonna stop talking here. Terry and I are gonna lay out the maps again, and then we'll have people at each of the tables, and feel free to, we're gonna put markers out there, we're gonna put labels, tags, draw all over them, write whatever you can think if there's something that you want to record. The other thing to keep in mind is if there's an area that you want to have as protected, we're not going to say, hey, this is where the Sundance areas are, because that might not be the best way to, we don't want to identify that per se. But if you mark it on the map as Sundance, what we're going to do is we're just going to mark it as a protected area and make it a little more general, so that it isn't so specific for people to have a concern if something is mapped. But I don't know, Terry, if there's anything else you want to mention about elders or anything along that route, or any of that traditional knowledge that you want to collect. Okay. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll pass out these forms. They're a bunch of questions that you can answer, and then I'll pass these out. If the other folks want to set up the maps, we can get rolling on that. And I think it's time for a draw.
Yes, it is.
It's been 10 minutes. I talked too long.
Anybody didn't get a ticket, come and get one now. Draw time. just some information. This is an old draft moment. So that subdivision that's going on right now is full. So we're looking for different areas. Where's the next 20-year subdivision going to go? So we looked at so one of the places we're looking at right now is probably has the highest potential is the old triple O fields up on a hill. Because the reason it might work there is that there's a lagoon about not that far away, and those places need lagoon servicing and all that, and that's just one of the areas we kind of identified. Again, it's not etched in stone or just drafting and trying to figure out where the best locations are. So that's on a different not this is an old plan. This is on the new one. We're kind of identified that on some of those maps. So okay, draw time. Another thing Terry brought up, if you know somebody that has this information that we're looking for on sensitive areas, specific sites on the reserve, maybe let us note up at those tables, and we'll take the name and we'll go see those individuals. The more information, the better. Not everybody can make it out to these events, so. Okay, who's got those? Okay, we got a ticket here. 1049 for what are we giving away? Hello, just wait. Terry, what are you giving away? Just point. Blanket. Okay. 1049. Yeah. Oh, I just want to see it, and you can give it back. Yeah, they match. Draw time. I think we'll do a gift card now. We'll do a Cabela's $100 gift card. No, I see. Okay, ticket number 1048. $100 Cabela's gift card. There's more of these, so who's got her? 1048. 48. Then oh, kia.
Tristan.
Okay, here you go. Okay, we got a winner here. Tristan Carter. Okay, time for another draw, they said. What should we draw for? How about a Walmart gift card? How much is this gift card worth? $200. $200 gift card, Walmart. Number 1058. Holy smokes. Okay, we're on a roll. We'll get a, let's see, Renetta, what do you think? Okay, a chair. We'll do a chair. Um, 1075. 1075. Willard. 75. No. Okay, come get it, Brent. Just gotta see it and keep it. Right on. There you go, man.
All right.
Enjoy it. Another draw. That one. Fishing rod here and tackle for the fishermen. 1066. 66. Now yet? No, we'll just wait. Oh, yeah, well, they got to print the ticket. Okay, another Cabela's $100 card with a cap this time. Northbound planning. That's okay. 1062. 62. We got a winner. About 10 more items.
Hi, so we have some tables set up here. Jordan Lewis is in the back there. He's got a group of people and he's taking their information down. And Erwin has a table over here as well. So if you guys want to come and join him here, and you can give him your information and he'll capture that for you. Renetta's also got a table on the other side here of the building. So if you guys want to kind of spread out and go into these different groups, then we'll capture your information. And if you guys have more stories or know people who aren't here, just leave their names, and what we'll do is we'll do interviews. We'll go and interview them. Another draw?
Draw time. What are we doing? What is that?
It's a mug.
A mug and a toque, northbound planning toque. It's the number 1064. 64. Oh, there we go. Got a winner. I know. Well, else you getting? No, no, no. There you go. Yeah, there'll be another draw. You're still in it. We'll draw for a kid's fishing rod and a tackle box and a toque. One 1063. 63 The other tickets, if you wonder, they're for the main prize stuff. Another draw, a kid's fishing rod, toque, and a tackle box. Z- 1046. 46. Another draw, toque and a thermos. One zero four three. Okay, another one. We'll go with northbound Took, I got Walmart, $200 gift card. 1052. Right on. Four more. Tent is the grand prize, grand draw. One more draw. Let's go with chair. 1059. Three more items. Okay, let's do another one. Three more here, so we'll go with a cap and what is this? What is this? Okay. $200 multi-card and a northbound cap. Ticket number 1072. Okay, second last draw, it's... Okay, we'll go with the barbecue set here. Okay. One zero four two. I guess we're going to give out 2 blankets and the grand prize. So we'll do a blanket draw here. On. Comes with them. 1050. Another blanket. 1051. Oh, remember this guy lost this one. Yeah, this one. Okay. No, he gets to keep that. You keep it. Keep it for the main draw. Okay, we'll do it. Okay, we'll put all these tickets back. Oh, wait. This one, you gotta wait for the other one. Can't take it. Okay. No, that's laptop. Okay, shake him up. Oh, no. What if he wins, he says? Dennis, 1055. 55. Okay, that's everything.
Check, check, check. Yep, yep, yep. Hey, everybody! For those of you that are watching out there, they got the maps out here. Well, first of all, my name is Brian Misto, 7 Gen Live streaming. We got Elliot Dillon and the lands department out here. They got a bunch of our old timers here that really know the land up north, and they're marking out territories which they think are significant in within our boundaries. Um, and they're doing this. They're, as you can see right there, they got those little blue tags on the map. They got markers out, and they're doing this out of their own knowledge. Um, because these guys are avid outdoorsmen. As you can see, these are four of the main guys that go up north all the time. And way in the back over there in the blue, you got old Zagaga Peo there. Willard Harper is there. They're all in there, making sure and then cross-checking with everybody else that they got the proper boundaries marked as what they are. Um, so this is all about, like they mentioned earlier, we want all the people's input on what is what right here in our Cree Nation, right into boundaries of land that is owned by individuals or families or wherever your land is, where your boundary is. That's the markers that they're looking for, and that's what they're looking for, so they can do an updated version of our our band map, I guess is what it is. And they want to do that updated version to the best of their ability. And hold on a second. We're gonna get joined here by Yvonne, and we're just getting her set up. But she's kind of one of the ones that, like the map organizer, I guess, or something like that, right? Hold on a sec.
Okay, so I'm Yvonne Prusak. I am the community planner that is working with Onion Lake to create their community plan. So the exercise that we're going through is looking at how Onion Lake is going to grow into the future. We've been talking with a lot of different community members, a lot of different departments. Onion Lake's population is growing very rapidly. And so one of the things that we want to consider is, what does the community need as it grows over time? And what does it need for schools, and what does it need for playgrounds, and what does it need for houses, and all of the different factors associated with it. So when we do land use planning, there's about 15 or 16 considerations that we're looking at. We're looking at the natural environment, we're looking at residential development, we're looking at transportation, infrastructure. All of these different factors are required to make sure that when we're doing land use planning for the future, we consider it. So, we don't want to put a whole residential subdivision in a low-lying area where it could be flood prone, and then you have mold in people's houses, and the roads get wet and things like that, getting in and out. And
It's
then
almost set up for failure, right?
if you don't plan in the future, yeah, exactly. So we want to make sure that we've got, appropriate access in for fire trucks and emergency services, and there's different ways to get out if there's wildfires and things like that. So it takes a lot of variables, and that's where this knowledge is so incredible, because the community knows, hey, this used to be a slough, let's not put a house there,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
if we can depend on local knowledge first, then it helps the community to not have to be so reliant on external engineers or external planners or whatever it might be, and then we can start building that knowledge into how we grow into the future.
And that community knowledge, that local knowledge is pretty accurate, because a lot of people that come around, they know, and they hung out with their grandpas before them and stuff like that out on the land. They know exactly where there was a tree stump, like 50
Yeah.
years ago and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So they understand that kind of stuff. They understand where all the rocks are in the ground
Yep.
and everything like that. So, having that ability to understand where all this geological stuff is in the ground, it just makes it future planning that much more easier when you go to break ground to go do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think for myself, it's not my place, excuse me, to come in and tell you where to plan or
Yeah.
where this stuff is supposed to go.
Yeah.
My job is to utilize the knowledge that the community has and tailor it to meet what your community needs. That's
Yeah.
where I think a good specialist that comes in to build off what you already know,
Yeah.
and making sure that we've got those historical areas integrated into the community, and we've got all of this natural knowledge designed into how the community is going to grow.
And not only that, it just covers your bases too for like other people, so you're not stepping on toes and getting the wrong person mad or getting too many people, disgruntled if you're gonna go and take down, a bunch of their, you know, however long they've had this trap line for or something like that, right? So
Yep.
it goes into respect as well. So like it's I think it's good having this planning here. And I see that there's a few of the older fellows, like I mentioned earlier. There's Albert Jimmy, and there's Donnie McDonald, there's Jack Chokin, there's Willard Harper, and these guys have been avid outdoorsmen and avid um, land-based people throughout our community for a long time, right? And they know where these things are. Like Erwin Skeenum is sitting right there too, and
Yeah.
like all these guys are pretty knowledgeable in the ground, what's in the ground and where there used to be like a little creek bed
Yeah.
or what Ducks Unlimited came and did here back in the 70s. You know what I mean? 60s and 70s. So like having that kind of knowledge, I think, is very beneficial for this kind of forum.
And I think that's one of the fun things about working with Indigenous communities for land use planning is Indigenous culture is land is integral to that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is the foundation of a lot of what Indigenous culture is. And we have to be cognizant of all of these different factors, and we have to protect the land for what it needs to be protected for. There's areas that are suitable for oil and gas. There's areas
Yeah.
that are suitable for residential. There's areas that are perfect for the Ducks Unlimited, where you have that trapping.
Yep.
And those are the different variables that we have to keep in mind, because if you over inundate on one, it's going to be to the detriment of something else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the challenge with planning, is because you've got to try to keep all of these different balls in the air as you juggle them, if I can use that analogy, and one is always going to fall. But if
There-
you have the right checks and balances, then maybe it won't fall as hard.
Yeah, it won't be as much of an impact on that little
Yeah.
piece, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's what we want to do is like it's all about preservation of land, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my understanding of it, anyways, right? It's all about preservation of land and the best and proper or the best use for that piece of land
Right.
that's there, right?
Right, right.
Um,
And I would build on that to say it's also important to make sure that we put those uses beside each other right. So let's put the residential around the schools, right? Let's not put it out in the middle of the oil and gas areas. There's going to be different things that work better together, and we want to keep those things that don't really work well together, oil and gas and residential right beside each other. We want to keep those apart, and then we can put buffers or we can put distance between them so that people have a great quality of life when they're living in their houses, and they feel safe going to school and things like that.
Well, not only that, it's the noise too,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That comes out of those engines that are on like
Yep.
one of those big well sites and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Like I know there is one that's kind of close up there that I seen. I don't know if that well is actually running or not. It might be a dead well, but it was just right there. Wasn't that far from the residential area. I think maybe 100 meters on the other side of the road from
Yep.
where a house was, and you
Right.
probably know about it.
Yep.
So like things like that come up as concerns. That's another thing that this forum is actually for. If you're concerned or if you have questions for any one of these people that are here, like the doors are open, and I'm not sure what time they're open
Till 8.
Till 8.
Yeah, so we got 45 minutes.
Get about another 45 minutes to come on up here. I think they're going to be going into Q&A here for a bit, and then before they get shut down the doors. But then this map right here too as well, like you see those people all the way around it. They made a bunch of marks on it, so they're doing a bunch of uh, talking amongst each other and cross-referencing with each other and making sure that every mark is pretty accurate, because that's the kind of information that you're looking for, right?
And I think that that's one of the exciting things about these types of events is you're going to know something,
Yep.
and your neighbor's going to know something, and then it just builds and it
Yep.
grows, and then it becomes this big overall picture of this area. And then they've got an appointment, so they're going to go, and then someone else is going to come in, and they're going to be like, oh, but like we were chatting with some folks over at one of the other tables, and they said, oh, well, that's Cardinals, and wasn't there a grave over here, and then the residential school was over here,
Yep.
but it's down Lover's Lane. And so they were able to build off each other to
Yep.
then narrow down these areas of that are important to protect, and that's the exciting part that I find for this.
Yeah, protected areas. I think there's a lot of protected areas within our community. A lot of protected areas that have been forgotten. That maybe even some of the old timers even forgot because the landscape changed. Erosion happens and landscapes change, and then they just forget where it is because it doesn't look the same as it did, 50 years ago, right? Yeah.
That's the neat part about going through some of these historical aspects that we do when we try to compile all of that and make sure that we're looking back to history, and we're inviting the elders in here so that we can get that knowledge that they do have, because like you said, it might be prominent now, but in 20 to 30 years that generation is now gone.
Yeah.
And we want to protect it for future generations.
Yeah.
We want to think of the 20 before, the 20 after, and then the current, because the kids that are here are going to be having to deal with the same issues that we are today, but it's going to be evolved to something
it'll
different.
be evolved. Maybe it'll be concrete over everything by then. But
I
who
hope
knows?
not.
I hope not. I hope not. I hope that the bush is here to stay, because there's a lot of cut blocks up in the forest, just out of our reserve boundary.
Yep. Yep.
And it's come as a nuisance, I think, for a lot of our hunters and trappers, because now where there was trails for years and years and years, there's now just nothing but a big field of stumps, right?
Right.
And that makes it hard for the hunters and the trappers to get out there.
Yep.
And then not only that, if they got to go all the way around and all the equipment that they got to haul it that much more farther, right?
Right. And that's one of the factors we have to consider is wildlife transportation routes, corridors, migration routes for birds. There's areas that we know that there's migratory routes that are going through there. We want to avoid those areas, and we want that mapped, because then we can say, and we want to make sure that those areas are designated as that, so that when Onion Lake's population grows, and
Yeah,
it will.
it
I mean,
will.
you've got 200 kids in kindergarten. I
Yeah,
mean, and you've got
it'll grow.
it's going to grow. People want to move back. I mean, we did some demographic analysis based on your membership numbers, and I mean, you've got more younger kids living off reserve than you do on reserve. And where do they want to come? They want to come home, right?
Eventually, yeah.
And so we want to make sure that as that residential growth expands, that we are protecting those other areas for those other uses, the migratory routes, the commercial, the agricultural, the whatever it might be, because each one of those has a factor for the holistic operation of what Onion Lake is.
Yeah, I like the way you say holistic in there because, like, when you say holistic, it's inclusion of everything that has to deal with, Onion Lake and its land, right?
Hmm.
And there's no dumb question. There's all questions are valid. All concerns are valid because this is ultimately it's Onion Lake, right?
Hmm.
And ultimately it's the land belongs to not only us but future generations. It has belonged to our generations past. So it's like we want to preserve it as best as we can, and what better people to have there to to help with that, like yourself, Elliot, Elliot's team over here, and then these old gentlemen over here. I think I like seeing them there. I like
Yeah.
referring back to them because like they got a lot of knowledge of the land, and I like seeing that.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that things are going to change.
Yeah,
Things are going to evolve.
yeah,
We can't, because of how fast the population Onion Lake is growing, we can't just say no more development ever, right?
mhm,
We have to do it strategically.
yeah,
We need to do it in a planned manner. And that's what this is trying to identify so that when we have to do our next 300 lot subdivision, because we've kind of planned the one that you have at the north end is going to be full here fairly
it's gonna
soon,
be really quick. Yeah,
where is that going to go? And then we were talking with emergency services and the emergency planning and infrastructure and saying, okay, well, where do we want to put the roads? Where do those roads need to go so people can get in and out safely?
yeah,
And where do we need to put the next fire hall? Where do we need to put a homeless shelter? Because the other aspect we consider is that housing continuum for people that are in a rough state of their life where they're homeless, they're not too sure, all the way to your young newlywed couples that are just the two of them and they don't necessarily want to live with the big family unit anymore. And then you transition all the way to your family units and then your elders and trying to come up with different types of housing for these folks because everybody is in a different state in their
yeah.
life. And we have to acknowledge that and it has to be try to plan that out as best we can, knowing that we're all going to fail. But if we have enough heads together, maybe we'll do okay.
Maybe we'll do okay. Yeah, I like the way you said that.
I think the neat thing that I've learned a lot this year. We've had some stuff happen in my family, and it's nothing happens in isolation. And a family and a community like this really have to lean on each other. And the more people that we have involved, the stronger that community is going to be.
And then, like when you say evolution and all that, and then planning for future infrastructure, is that you're probably not on any of that planning stages for any of that infrastructure going up there, right? You're just in there for the environment,
It's all of it. Because
all
when
of it.
I'm one of the other aspects that Elliot and I are working on is how do we apply this? How do
Yeah,
we implement this? Great, we know we want residential here, but what does that actually look like? And so one of the other factors that we're looking at is land rules and trying to say, okay, if we want to have a residential area in this section of the reserve, we need to look at what's our water capacity looking like? What's our sewer capacity? What kind of infrastructure, pipe sizes do we need? What kind of roads do we need? We want to have it at this standard so the school buses can get in and out. We have to look at the size of graders that your public works department has so they can clean those roads easily. We need to be cognizant of are there bear dens in that area so the kids are safe, right? Um, we have to consider all of that, and that ties into when we're looking at that implementation piece. And the worst thing that we can do is plan, let's put something here without considering all these other factors. And that's why I find it so important to build these relationships and get people involved, because someone's going to know about the infrastructure better than I will.
Yeah.
My job is just to compile all of this and then build these tools for the community so the community can start implementing it, because you folks are going to know this area better than I will.
That's probably how it'll end up being, right?
And that's the way it should be designed, because the most important thing when we work with a lot of communities, Indigenous or non, it's about building the tools and creating a framework that the community can manage on their own, and then start getting youth involved, start getting training, start getting people to get there themselves, because there's nothing worse than always having to be reliant on someone external, because that it becomes very fragile in that sense. And it's about creating all of these tools that the community can use and maintain. So one of the features that we do is we actually do an education program, and one of the things Elliot and I are working on is actually building a planning department that I'm going to come in and train your future planners and train the people so that they can then start giving them the tools and the checklists and the templates that they can use to start doing this on their own to do future planning that's suitable for Onion Lake.
How long, if you don't mind me asking, like how long have you been doing this kind of planning?
About 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah. Ellie and I
pretty
did the first round in about 15 years ago, and I was just a young Mooney owl at the time. So I don't know if I'm any wiser, but I'm certainly older.
Yeah. It's hard to scale that, you know what I mean? It's hard to scale if you get any wiser or anything, because like you get, but you learn, right? You're
learn.
always learning.
Yeah, I remember.
Always learning and everything like that.
I remember Ellie and I had the meeting. We had a public meeting, and
Yeah.
I don't speak Cree, but I remember there was a fellow that stood up and said, like, all I knew was Mooniao, right?
Yeah.
And then the rest of it was in Cree, and I pieced it together. We have to make sure that it is appropriate for Onion Lake,
Yeah.
and that's why this matters so much, and that's why it's not my job to come in and tell you what
Yeah.
you're supposed to do. My job is to hear and listen and understand and accentuate your local knowledge to make it fit for your community. So, when I was 5 years in, that's where I was at. Here we are 15 years later,
15
and
years later.
hopefully it's better.
Are you stationed here in Onion Lake?
I'm in Meota.
Meota?
Yeah,
it's
just
not too
north
far.
of North Battleford there. So Elliot and I are I'm coming out weekly to here or Lloyd or every couple weeks. So
Yeah.
it's pretty close. That's the nice
Yeah.
part about it.
So you're in constant communication with Elliot, and then
Mm-hmm.
advancements or anything like that that's going on and stuff like that?
Yep.
pretty
Well, while this project is on. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And how long is this project going to be going? Do you think?
Well,
What do you think?
we are
Best guesstimation.
best guess is I've got to compile all of this information. We've got to do a bunch of mapping. So we're thinking we're going to have an updated draft of the maps and the community plan in about a month and a half. And then we want to bring it back, present it to council, and see what their thoughts are. I mean, they're the elected officials, right? And we need to make sure that they endorse it. Once they've done that, then we take it to that next step of, okay, how do we implement this?
Yeah.
I can't build the rules, or I can't build how we're going to implement it unless I know the vision of what council wants to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all contingent on it.
Yeah.
If they want to focus on residential and not focus on agriculture, well, then that changes how I write some of the components of the documents. So it's important to have leadership's inclusion into it.
And then after it goes through that process, like, is that updated map going to be available to the public?
Probably, I would
Yeah.
think so. It's something with my other
Or is
communities.
that on Elliot?
It's going to be a lot on Elliot, but I don't see why it wouldn't be, because in my mind, when we get to that implementation piece, consistency breeds development.
Yeah.
People want to know that when this is where my house is going to be, and I'm going to be able to be here, right? And so the more information that we can give the community, the easier that planning is going to be, because everyone kind of knows what that goal is for the future.
Yeah.
So I would encourage it. I mean, whether Onion Lake I know you've got your website and stuff, so it'd be easy to throw it up there. We just have to make sure that council and the departments are comfortable with it, right?
Council and HR, senior admin.
Yep.
Yeah. They all got to be, I think everybody has to be all on board at the same time, right? For something to go through.
It's been really encouraging. Every 2 weeks we've been having these meetings with different departments, and
Yeah.
it's been really encouraging to see people show up from public works, from emergency services, from housing. Elders come and actually have their input into it all. So I'm optimistic that we're going to see a really interesting outcome of what all this becomes.
And I couldn't help but over here when we were talking about the subdivision way up over on the Banfields, I think they said. The Banfields way up on the east Old Triple O area.
Yep.
There's already a lagoon up there.
Yep.
I'm aware of that. And and like the road going across there, like how is that gonna look? Like have you guys talked about the planning on that already, or?
We haven't got into the concept plan level yet. We're still trying to do some initial topographical evaluations to make sure that, hey, we're not putting the house in the middle of a slough.
Yeah.
When it gets to that actual design piece, then we're going to start getting into, okay, how wide does that road need to be? Does it need to be 50 feet? Does it need to be 75 feet? You know, are we having sidewalks going to be there for kids to be able to walk back and forth? We need to make sure we've got the area suitable first, and then we get into the building. So
Yeah.
I see it as kind of a progression.
Yeah. So you're looking at the groundworks first.
Yes.
Drainage.
Yes.
All that.
And that's where we want to use this knowledge, because maybe there's something up there that we don't know about, right? And maybe it's not appropriate because, hey, maybe it floods every 25 years, and the elders like people haven't built here because of this reason.
Yeah.
That's that knowledge that we need.
Right. That's a really good point. You know, that's something that I didn't even think about. You know, like maybe something happens every 25 years that you know nobody knows about, or we never seen. But you know, somebody's out there that knows about something, maybe through legends or stories, or you know, just word of mouth, oral history.
Yeah.
That
Well-
yeah, like you said, like it floods every 25 years. Like maybe there is a place that does. I don't know.
One of the other communities that we work with, we were talking to a fellow that's been lived in the community for quite a while, and their current planning department was complaining about, well, this is a slough. Why did we build this arena in the middle of a slough? And it's funny because we just started working with the community, and it was probably 5 years ago. I was talking to this local elder in the community, and he was telling us stories about how they used to, when he was in school, he would skip school and he would raft down this little creek down to the river. And here 2 weeks ago, I was in this meeting with administration, and they were like, this area is a slough. And it's like, and in my mind, it finally clicked. That's the area that he went down a raft in 50 years ago, and they built an arena in the middle of there, right? So it's kind of interesting because you almost have to piece together these factors that you know, but then you also have to think, why hasn't it been built? Is there something we need to be cognizant of that somebody local might know more?
So you always got to have that question up in the front, right? That why is there nothing here? Is there a reason for that? So you always got to keep that up in the front of their mind when you're trying to plan something. Yeah. What do you think? Are they going to be doing some more Q&A here, or I don't think we even got into any Q&A.
We didn't get to a whole lot. We were doing a bunch at the tables themselves.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's people that have questions, or people have been texting you questions or anything like that. But we can certainly incorporate in any questions that have come up.
How much land does Onion Lake have?
That's a fantastic question that I do not know the answer to. But it is a lot of land. It's one of the largest reserves that I've worked with.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys go all the way from the river all the way up to almost good soil, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's 2.5 hours of driving on good roads. So, I wouldn't want to give misinformation, but a lot. You have a lot of land. Yeah, which is great. There's a lot of First Nations that don't have.
That's actually the only question that's out there.
Okay.
You got the only question. But
You
there's a lot
stumped
of
me.
people
You
watching.
stumped me.
There's a lot of people watching.
Good.
There's people watching. What? Oh, he wants to do another draw.
Oh, okay.
The number.
I see. I think we exhausted the draws,
I think the draws are all done.
or he wants his number.
Yeah, just kind of hanging out here now. I forgot your name already.
Yvonne.
Yvonne.
Yes.
And your last name?
Prusak of Northbound Planning.
Pruzak?
Prusak, yeah.
Pruzak,
Northbound Planning.
Northbound Planning. Yvonne Pruzak here, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it was a good conversation I had with you. You know, you actually filled me in with a lot of knowledge.
Good.
I'm pretty sure the viewers back there are pretty impressed with the amount of knowledge and how you're able to break things down, like even for myself, you know what I mean? Because like there's a lot of questions every once in a while. Like every once in a while, I do have a question about why there is like a gravel pit over here, or why is there no road going through this area, kind of thing, right? But that all breaks down to like what kind of land there is underneath the soils, right? So you know, I want to thank you for your knowledge here today, and we're gonna end this this little interview.
Sounds great. Well, thank you
Alright.
so much. If you have
Alright,
any other
thanks.
questions, let me know, and
Yeah,
I can
for
always
sure.
answer them later.
For sure.
All right.
Check. Can you hear me? Check, check. Check. Check.
Stove, but they give me a good, I don't know. Oh, El Roy, a stove. Så kan du ikke bare good size lots. Det er start. Det var det der, men det. Hvor meget skal du der have? Det er sådan en stove, ikke? Ja. Hva?
We marked it out.
Okay,
One eye.
I think we'll start wrapping up.
Old tower.
I'd just like to
Power cap,
come and support us and give their information. We'll take that and start working with that and mapping.
Está home the poor. Oh, look at
Yeah.
that. Daryl's cabin. Oh, yeah, that way, huh? Hey, Uma. Gerald? Mata nga, pito mo Uma. I don't know. Yeah. 38, 39, 40, mas to esta eres. Uma 37, mas to man esta.
Thank you for attending, everybody. We appreciate this. And your information is very valuable. And our other item is Robert here. He's been very helpful in this whole process. And Yvonne came along recently to come and assist us with this as well. We wanted to honor them by giving them a gift. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming to our session.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to thank. Thank you, everybody.